Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Southeast Media Sunrise, dedicated to giving a voice to authors of all genres. I'm your host, Jodi Hockinson. Joining us remotely by phone today is Wayne McFarland, author of Tales from the Day, life-shaping events that, truth be told, all happened under the heading of Oops. Wayne McFarland wandered away from a small Midwestern town some years ago. With no planning at all, his history is one of stumbling into one bog after another, from the Dakotas to California, from Pamplona to Paris. His main claim to fame is mostly and surprisingly not being dead, plus getting involved with a lot of strange stuff, usually unwillingly or by accident. Yeah, this indeed is a memoir of sorts, if shark fishing in one's underwear, roping a bear, getting drunk with your grandfather, or losing 10 grand at the Hollywood sign is a memoir. The Day Johnny Cash Hit on My Wife is on the roster as well, for the only name drop in all the stories. There's also a thing about getting shot in Arkansas and a road trip with a monkey. These life-shaping events all happened under the heading of Oops. Again, this is Wayne McFarland, author of Tales from the Day, life-shaping events that, truth be told, all happened under the heading of Oops. Welcome, Wayne. Thank you for joining us today.
Jodi, yes, delighted to be here. Thank you.
Glad to have you. So, tell us why you think most memoirs suck.
We had a little company, my wife and I, and we sold it. And I've always loved to read, particularly memoirs and biographies. So I really focused on reading a lot of memoirs. And Jodi, I gotta tell you, most memoirs really suck. I mean, it's amazing, and almost all of them are kind of around the theme of, with a crooked smile but straight teeth, I gazed at the mountains and said, "There lies my destiny." It doesn't work like that.
Holy cow.
I read all this stuff, and I thought, nobody's life is some great monumental decision after which you do world-conquering things. And my experience with life is that it's a series of events, most of which are funny, not so much. And most of them you just kind of stumble into. You start out, like they say, clearing the swamp and suddenly notice all the alligators. So I thought, well, I'll write a memoir, but I'm not going to talk about, deciding on my destiny and then fulfilling it. I'm going to talk about, pitching a loan shark for an advertising deal, or running with the bulls, or something like that, because that's really the way things happen, or at least they happen to me.
So what did happen when you pitched the loan shark?
Well, I was involved with local radio for a while, and you're a broadcaster, Jodi, so you're probably well aware of this as well, that when local radio was around before they were all bought up by the big conglomerates, local radio stations were like a carnival, and the owners were like carny folks, and they were hustlers by and large. And one of the great things about local radio is they never paid cash for anything. They'd trade everything. Couldn't sell their advertising. So if you wanted free restaurant meals or an old beat or used car, you'd go to somebody and say, "Hey, I'll put you on the air on my station, which plays, Tibetan music, and you can pay me in food," or whatever the case may be. So I knew a lot of these guys. And one day I got a call from a guy who was kind of an unwitting mentor of sorts. And he called me and he said, "Hey, I just bought a little daytime station in Las Vegas." Now, daytimer means that it only really broadcasts during the day, and at night it has really no signal. And he said, "I've got this great idea. I'm going to only do trade for advertising. We'll take no cash. We'll live like kings. In Las Vegas, we'll go to all the shows and we'll do all this stuff, and we won't pay for anything, and you're going to help me." And I thought, there's something wrong with this plan. But he offered me a little walking around money. So I went there, and he was right. For a while, Jodi, we lived like kings and queens. I mean, we went to everything and ate and drank, and it was great. And one day the station owner calls me in and he says, "We're out of money." Well, big surprise, right? And he said, "We're out of money, and we are going to go pitch an all-cash, year-long advertising contract to Big Jim at Big Jim's bail bonds."
Okay.
Yeah, no kidding. And I was new to Las Vegas, and even I knew that Big Jim was the most notorious loan shark in the whole town, and that's saying something. And he ran he fronted this bail bond office with his kid, Little Jim, they called him, and he was mean as a rattlesnake. And I said, Dave, I don't think this is a good idea. And he said, no, it'll be fine. I even did a commercial for him. So he plays me this commercial, which was really beautiful. I mean, it was a disc jockey voice and nice upbeat music and pitching if you ran afoul of the law, call Big Jim and all would be well and whatever. And I thought, well, okay. I mean, maybe we'll do this. It's a nice commercial. So off we go to Big Jim's, right? And we get ushered into the conference room, and there's Big Jim and his rattlesnake kid. And his kid starts in, and he says, I don't even know why we're here. We're not going to pay any money for this. This is really stupid. It's not exactly what he said, but that was the general drift. And my friend, he said, hey, no, it's fine. I even made a commercial. And the kid says, we don't want to hear any stupid. And Big Jim says, no, I want to hear it. Play it. So the station owner who got me into this pushes the button. And Jodi, instead of the commercial he'd played for me, out comes his voice with music backing him in a minor key. And the dialogue ran like this. Have you killed your wife? If you have money in the bank, we don't care. Hit your mom with an axe? If you have equity in real estate, we don't care. The kid popped out of his chair like a gopher out of a hole, and he started shouting at us, and he stopped when he noticed that his dad, Big Jim, was laughing so hard I thought he was going to have a heart attack.
That is hilarious.
And when he called, the best was yet to come. When he calmed down, he looked at us and he said, you know, that took some sand. That was really, really stupid. But he said, that took some sand. I'll buy your deal. I'll pay you for a contract a year in advance. He said, on two conditions. And my buddy, the owner of the station, fumbling for his pen, right, pushing the contract across, said, what are the conditions? And Big Jim said, first you give me that commercial, and it better be the only copy. And the second condition is that you never put anything on the air without my approval. So we did it. Got a lot of cash. And I thought that Big Jim demanded that commercial so he could destroy it. But later I heard that he played it at every single party he was at, right up until he went to jail.
Until he went to jail. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
What a story.
Yeah. And I was pitching the loan shark.
So listeners, if you want to hear more details about that particular chapter, make sure and get a copy of Tales from the Day by Wayne McFarland. So tell us.
Bless you, Jodi. May you live long and prosper.
So how did a worm wreck your business?
Well, when I first got up the West Coast, we had a little production company, and what we did is we made 10-minute or 15-minute commercials for businesses involving slides. So if you were selling, shingles, whatever you were selling, we'd put together a soundtrack. You know how that's done, a little music in the background with pictures of people putting up shingles. And we were really living hand to mouth. Kind of story, that's part of the story of my life too. And one day, Jodi, I nailed a contract for an actual movie, a business movie, with the largest producer of sprinklers in the world. I mean, this was like the gods had reached down and said, fame is yours. And it involved, director's chairs and lights and food trucks. And I mean, the whole deal, right? So I got a call from the guy who owned this company. He said, okay, Wayne, we're going to go with you. And come on down and we'll sign up the contract and get going. Now, I had an apprentice at the time who was the son of a kind of a dodgy vitamin company that's still in business today. And apparently he went out in the world to see how things really worked. So I sat him down and I said, now look, when you're signing contracts like this, never, never, never discuss creative ideas before the contract's signed and you get your deposit. Because after you get your contract and your money, then if they don't like your creative idea, it's fine. You just come up with another idea. But if they hate your creative idea before they give you that first check and sign your deal, you can lose the deal. And the kid looked at me and said, yeah, I got it. Keep my mouth shut. Don't talk about creative stuff. So off we go. We go to this guy's office, and Jodi, he was really excited. He said, I've worked my whole life, and now we're going to do a movie about the company I built. And so he picks up his pen, and I swear to you, he signed his first name. And then he looked up and he said, you boys got any ideas about how you're going to approach this? And I started my normal pitch about, no, we're going to bring in a creative team and a writer, and and the kid says, well, yeah. And my heart stopped. Yeah, my heart just stopped. And I said, no, we'll be doing that after contract. And now the guy who's signing it puts down his pen. He's excited. He says, no, Wayne, I want to hear what this young man's got to say. And he looked over and he said, what's your idea? And my apprentice actually stood up, looked up at the sky and said, we open by panning up to the giver of life, the sun. And the owner's going, yes. And then the kid goes on, and then we pan down to Mother Earth, the greenery of Mother Earth. And the owner goes, yes. And then what? And the kid says, and then we pan below the grass into the rich humus of the life-giving soil. And we pan down till we see your mascot, the representative of your business. And the owner goes, what is it? What is it? And the kid says, an earthworm. Now, Jodi, you've probably heard the joke about dropping excrement into the punch bowl at a party. How other than the plop, it just gets really quiet.
So that was it.
I swear to you, it got quiet as death in the office. And the owner looks up at me and he says, do you mean to tell me you think I have worked my entire life to be represented by a worm? Yeah, that was that.
And that was that.
That was that. Yeah.
So what happened to your apprentice?
Well, I am ashamed to tell you that for the first and only time in my life, we got outside and I fired him on the spot. I was just so distressed. I had a new wife at home, and I mean, that was food money, and we were in a kind of a warehousey section of Los Angeles. And I just walked up. He said, how am I going to get home? I said, I don't care. And I regret it now because I for a lot of reasons. But anyway, he made it home okay because the next thing I heard, he was chief executive officer of his parents' vitamin company. And I don't think, Jodi, they ever made a corporate film.
That is so funny. How did going on a date involve the plane crash?
Well, when I was back in the day, I was in the military and stationed in North Dakota. I was in the National Guard. And it gets, North Dakota, you're either baking your brains out or freezing bodily parts. I mean, it gets down to 30 below in the winter. So this was before I was married, and I had a date with a lady I really thought a lot of in Minneapolis, which was about 5 hours by car, but by plane, not so much. So it was for New Year's Eve, and the day before, there was this huge blizzard in North Dakota, drifts everywhere, and it shut down the air base where I was. And so, the roads were shut, everything was shut. And I thought, how am I going to do this? So I had a lot of friends at the air base, and I went up the tower, and here were a couple of guys trying to plot to go to Minneapolis, but the airport was closed. And one of them was a kid who was gnawing at his old man about the storm. And his father said, look, I'm not responsible for the weather. And I went up to him and I said, listen, if I could get a runway cleared, would you let me ride along to Minneapolis with you in your plane? And and they looked at me and I said, well, yeah. we do that. So I called a friend of mine who was a sergeant out there and in charge of all the military equipment, including snowplows. And I asked him if he cleared the runway, and he said, "What are you, out of your mind?" He said, "That's using military equipment without authorization. And besides, what's in it for me?" And I said, "2 cases of beer." And he said, "Done." So the next thing we see is this military snowplow clearing the runway we needed to take off. So these two guys were just delighted. And the pilot, who was the older guy, said, "Look, wait 5 minutes, come on out, hop in the plane, we're out of here." So we did. Plane was fired up, and off we went, right? And I was feeling really smug. I'm telling you, we were off. We were going, I don't know how high we were. And suddenly the pilot started shrieking and beating on the plane's dashboard. And I noticed our one engine had stopped and we were going down. Yeah, we were going down. And the pilot was screeching and carrying on and trying to, working the key and trying to get the engine to fire. And it just ground and ground and ground. It wouldn't go and it wouldn't go and it wouldn't go. And we were heading down toward the beet fields in North Dakota, which the snow looked really flat, but the farmers they're all furrows. And we were in a plane with fixed landing gear. So, if we landed and caught a furrow, you'd be doing a tumbleweed thing. So we're going in and I'm thinking, good move, Wayne. Good move. Going for a date in Minneapolis. You're so smug, and now we're going to auger into some sugar beet field, right? And I swear to you, Jodi, we weren't 10 feet above the deck, and the engine caught. And the pilot we were heading back to the airport, and the engine was stuttering all the time, and the pilot was literally crying and cursing at the airplane. And the kid who was with him was his son, and finally we saw the airport, and the pilot's hands were shaking on the yoke, and the kid just put his hands over his father's hands, and we landed. So the next day, they pulled the plane into a hangar, and they'd been shouting Mayday all the way back, and as we were going in. So the whole airport was a buzz, right? So we landed and we went in, and the mechanic, as the two guys left, said, they should be dead. And I said, well, I'm glad they're not. And he said, I've never seen stupidity like that in my life. He said they didn't pre-flight the plane, and it was out in the blizzard, which meant the engine compartment got packed up with snow. And when the engine got hot, it melted, and shorted out a lot of the electrical stuff. And apparently it was just hot enough that as we were going down, it dried out. And so the punchline for the story is that after getting a lecture from the mechanic about how we idiots should be dead, and me saying, I didn't fly the plane, it wasn't my plane, I went back to the airport, and there in the tower were all kinds of other private pilots who were trying to get to Minneapolis. And now the runway was clear. So I was kind of a local hero because I found out, I'd been in the plane, but I hadn't piloted it. And one of them offered to give me a ride. And Jodi, 4 hours later, there I was at the party saying hi to my lady. And she said, you made it. I didn't think you'd get here because of the blizzard. Did you have any trouble? And I looked at her and I said, not a bit.
So you made it on the date.
Yeah. I said, it was fine. Didn't have a single problem.
Oh, boy. So those were just a few of the very interesting stories you'll find in Tales from the Day, life-shaping events that, truth be told, all happened under the heading of Oops by Wayne D. McFarland. So anyone interested in purchasing this book can log into semediapodcast.com or visit Amazon or Barnes & Noble. This book is available on Kindle, Audible, and in paperback. And for more information, you can visit talesfromtheday.com or waynemcfarland.com. That's WayneMcFarland.com. This was Wayne McFarland, author of Tales from the Day, life-shaping events that, truth be told, all happened under the heading of Oops. Thanks again for joining us today, Wayne.
Jodi, it was great. Thank you. Appreciate the plug very much. And my closing comment is, where have you been my whole life?
Oh, what a treat it's been for me, too. And listeners, if you're interested in getting your book published, please visit us at semediapro.com and click on the book publishing link. This is Jodi Hockinson, host of Southeast Media Sunrise, Southeast Media Productions. Like us on Facebook at Southeast Media Productions, or visit our website at semediapro.com.